Fat Burger, Part 1. Mike used to swagger into the burger stand nearly every day, ordering up a huge tray of chow and stuffing it down on the way back from the gym. A big guy like him, though, could support the calorie intake. Despite having finished his regular college football regimen 5 years ago, he still cut a solid, imposing frame in the entry of the burger joint. I used to swoon every time he bounded through the door, waving high as he stepped up to the counter for his usual order. This is not to imply that Mike's post-collegiate eating habits didn't show. It just seemed that for what the guy shoveled in, any other ex-jock would have been pinned down under a gut so huge it'd be tough to squeeze into the booths. Mike was a defensive lineman in college. He played at a smaller league school, so he got to start at on 6'1" and, my guess, about 225 pounds of beefy muscle, back when he played. That is by no means to say he was small. He had some serious depth in his chest. He'd definitely thickened up some since abandoning the daily field routines, but he kept up the weight regimen. His meaty pecs were still round and firm. His thighs were as powerful as ever, his biceps just as bulging. But where his abs once cut sharp lines in his uniform, his long-waisted torso now bowed forward with the solid bulge of a former football jock's paunch. He carried it well, not making any attempt to hide it. Instead, Mike stood squarely with his shoulders back, pecs raised high, nice start of a gut arcing out in front of him. His back swayed in counterpoint, first forward where his gut started on his front side, bending more where his belly was thicker, then swooping back out into his bulbous glutes. I'd watch entranced as his chest and hips worked in opposition when he swung open the door and blazed into the place, gut tight against his t-shirt, highlighting its new swell. And Mike always ate like he couldn't care less how much that gut might grow as a result of his post-collegiate eating habits. I'd seen his gut first sprout about a year ago, emerging and bulging to its present size. Mike almost seemed a little proud of it. He'd absent-mindedly rub his hand across his stretched t-shirt as he'd eye the menu, assembling his current feast in his head. As he did, I was guessing how much he must have gained. 25 pounds at least. And then today's order followed. "Hey bud, pretty starved today. I'll take 4 of those double fat burgers, 2 large fries, a jumbo Coke, and what the hell, a jumbo shake too." Big order today, huh? Yeah, I cranked pretty hard at the gym though. I think I deserve it. My arms and legs are aching. No better way to replenish the system, that's for sure. No doubt. That's gonna start sticking to your gut soon, though, if you keep it up. Yeah, whatever. Some of it already has, I guess. I figure it's the benefit of not having to stay in training for football. I'm loving eating whatever the hell I want now. With one hand, Mike slapped the firm top of his gut, right where it started to bow out slightly from the base of his pecs, and with the other, he reached around to grasp the lower bow of his belly, right below his navel. He'd almost caressed the rock-solid ball as if to say, "If I gain a few, who gives a fuck? Won't likely get any bigger than this since I'm still working out hard. I'm not worried." He was right about that. Over the past year, I had closely watched the changes in Mike's total build beyond the belly. First, his muscles were thickening up from all the working out. He'd proudly tell me how he was beefing up his lifting routine. I think any cardio work he used to do for football was getting replaced with weight training. The changes looked good on him. He was muscling up more and more, and he was definitely getting an appetite to match his growing girth. He started eating a bit more with each trip into the burger joint. I'd notice his order grow over time. At first it was always the same, but eventually Mike added a second trip to the counter. He'd kind of sheepishly make an excuse about how he was still starving and ask for another burger, then 2. One day I finally just added the second helpings to his first order, telling him it was on the house, saving him the second trip. He grinned ear to ear, and after that, any shyness about his orders was long gone. He'd belly up to the counter and order away. I watched him beef up a little more each month. His pecs swelled, his biceps yanked hard at the sleeve openings in his shirt, his thighs strained against his shorts, and little by little an undeniable gut sprouted and rounded out, firm like a basketball, obviously present, no way for him to hide it any more. His bulging gut was riding high while pushing down on the waistband of his shorts. He looked incredible, and I got feverish with intensifying fantasies of stuffing him nonstop after store hours until his gut swelled up to wedge him into the booth for good. He had to be pushing 260 these days. To be continued.